we've just had a core group of people that have been incredibly adaptable. When you start a company, you're looking for a lot of, what I would call Swiss Army knife people that can do some coding, could do some marketing, some selling, like just roll up your sleeves and do whatever it takes. I've been really surprised. This is my first startup that I started, and I started 9.5 years ago. Really been surprised how kind of the core leaders in the company have now been with the company for 6-7 years. And what I thought they were capable of and the roles at that time and what they've grown into, it's amazing to see the development. And just like people can adapt from one functional area to another, change their leadership styles. It's amazing. It's been a really, really core asset of ours.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about creating a culture of adaptability. When you have adaptable employees, you will have people that are willing to meet the new challenges, willing to do the extra work, and even innovate where necessary. You may think that that's a pipe dream, if you will, but I know that it is out there. And today we have a special guest. He is the founder of Deako. Deako is a smart lighting company. They made the Inc. list, 182 this year, been around for 9.5 years. Smart lighting is it's kind of cool. You probably can imagine what that is. You can use your voice to do it. You can use an app on the phone. But Derek Richardson is the CEO that today we're going to in depth to talk about, leading a culture of adaptability. So what is it? How do you actually get people to do it? The secret thing is he's not hiring it as a part of their process, which that might help him, but they are creating a way for people to stay in a job for a while and then move to other parts of the company. And then that cross-pollination of ideas and experience is actually creating the force for growth that he's experiencing as a company. And today we look at that culture of adaptability in a way that really helps you understand how to do that more in your company. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach. We do leadership development where we help companies find alignment. We help them meet the new opportunity in front of you. So if you have something really big on the horizon, you want to make sure people are aligned together, that you've got the right leadership, that you are addressing the blind spots. Maybe you're feeling, the pressure of this. Maybe you're feeling a little bit loneliness. You need someone to talk through some of these things. Then reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about it, get to know you. Maybe there's a chance for us to serve you. Maybe there's just a chance for us to connect, and you can take that plan and run with it. If you're curious about what that is, just send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. There's no fancy forms or anything to fill out. But if you really want to move forward as a leader and face that new opportunity with a full alignment and optimization with your team, then I'd love to help you. Now here's the interview with Derek. Derek, how are you?
I'm doing great, Gene. Thanks for having me.
We are going to have a great episode here at Grow Think Tank, and I would love to know more about your company. You made the Inc. list. Tell us about Deako.
Yeah, so Deako is a smart lighting company. We make light switches that typically go in new construction homes. So, when you want to go to bed at night, you don't want to walk room to room, floor to floor, turning off lights. You can, use your voice, use an app, or touch a single switch on the wall to turn off your lights. It's one of the features, but it's what we do here.
Love it. I was watching some of the videos. I feel like I need that. I have an older house, but I love the new technology that you guys are bringing. I got a follow-up question with you. Like, as far as home automation and whatnot, you're playing a part of that. Where do you see it going over the next 5 years?
Oh, I think there's going to be a lot of change that ends up happening. We're seeing AI really ripple through a lot of the world right now. Still very, very early days, but AI is, you get a lot of digital information online through your mobile phone, that kind of stuff that's going to be transformative. But I think AI in the physical world is going to be a big deal. And, most of us spend over half of our time in our homes. So I think AI in the smart home is going to be a really big thing.
Well, I love to do that. I know we're not going to talk about the product today. We're going to talk a lot about your people, about your culture, even some of the leadership aspects that have given you guys this growth trajectory. You were, is it 182? Did I have that right?
Yeah, we got ranked 182 on the Inc. 5,000 fastest growing private companies this year.
And that's over a 3-year period. There's some certain rules behind it. You got to have at least 2 million in revenue, but I'm sure you guys well exceeded that. If you looked at your culture and your team, what would you say is one of the biggest contributors to you guys having the success that you've had?
Well, I would say we've just had a core group of people that have been incredibly adaptable. When you start a company, you're looking for a lot of, what I would call Swiss Army knife people, people that can do some coding, could do some marketing, some selling, like just roll up your sleeves and do whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Been really surprised. This is my first startup that I started, and I started 9.5 years ago. Really been surprised at how kind of the core leaders in the company have now been with the company for 6, 7 years. And what I thought they were capable of and the roles at that time and what they've grown into, it's amazing to see the development. And just like people can adapt from one functional area to another, change their leadership styles. It's amazing. It's been a really, really core asset of ours.
I know a lot of founders are adaptable because they wear many hats in the very beginning stages of the company because they're forced to, right? They don't have the money to do all the things that need to get done. But you're talking about an established company that's got a core set of people that are adaptable. You mentioned programming and sales and marketing. Those are totally different types of skills. How has that worked out for you? How'd you find those people?
Blind luck, like most things that end up turning out really well for you in a company that's successful is, we hire people that are, we've got our core values that we interview and look for everybody. You got to be smart, focused, transparent, challenge respectfully, put the team first. We always make sure that the best ideas win, and an element of accountability in there. And when you're looking at hiring people through those types of lenses, you end up not looking for somebody that's got deep subject matter expertise in one functional area, but people that are very flexible. Like our head of software was an Android developer to start, and now he ran our data team for the last 2 or 3 years. He's influential in our product strategy and talks to customers regularly, and that's kind of across all of our, key executives at the company.
I'm sort of smiling when you said some of the values, and I know you probably framed them differently because you gave these phrases and explanations, but best idea, letting the best ideas win, transparent, are two of the ones that really stood out to me because that's a very common feature with fast growing companies. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. To me, it's just like you can't not be transparent, and you can't be egotistical enough to think that, a founder or a CEO is going to have all the best ideas. We've got 85 people in the company, and the fact that everybody knows what's going on and we're transparent about everything, to a fault. I think some people in the company don't always agree that we need to share everything to the extent we do, but it allows people to see problems and then go, oh, that connects to that, and I can go and solve that, and I'm empowered to go do that. It's a big asset.
Now, let me break in here because I wanted to add a little bit more to this transparency. I've been doing research with fast growth companies for more than a decade. I've been working with these clients, and it is amazing how many people resist transparency, and then how many of those that really accept it. Those that accept it have better cultures, they have better growth overall, they have all the right things working for them because they're willing to be transparent. Now, I call it remarkable transparency because there's not that much transparency in the world, and everyone has to deal with a transparency line, which is where what you believe is right to share and what's wrong to share. And everything that's on the wrong to share, you keep it in your close circles. Maybe it's only you and the top tier of your team, or maybe it's just you and the board. But you want to make sure that you have what I call a remarkable transparent culture. And that way you are bringing people in, you're letting those best ideas win, you're letting, letting them know the truth so that they can rally for you. Because if they don't know the truth and they hear or sense that the company's in trouble, then they will make up the worst story, and that's never good for a culture. And so transparency is very important. It actually plays through later in this interview. So look for those signs, and then look at your own transparency and figure out what's getting in the way of it. If I can help you in any way, make sure you reach out. Now back to Derek. So I love what I get to do because I've had hundreds of interviews with people like you, and I get to see those patterns, and it makes me a better coach. So that's the reason I highlight those things. Derek, you talked about adaptability. Is it something you're truly hiring, or are you developing adaptability as they come on board because it's just a part of the culture, or is it both?
I wouldn't say it's something we're interviewing for and trying to hire. I think I really, you know, we really like to give people opportunities to grow. I kind of feel like if you show up to work every day and you're excited about what you're working on, like you're passionate about what you're going to do, you're going to think deeper about it. You're going to try harder. You're going to never give up. You're going to do those types of things. And I think we've all kind of been there in our careers over the time. Like you can be in a role for a year, 2 years, you're excited about it. Then the growth starts to flatten out for you. You're not as inspired and driven as much. But you can take that same person, put them into a different department, a different role. They could be moving up to lead more people, or they could just move to a totally different functional area, and that can reinvigorate them, bring the passion back. And I think it's kind of a winning formula that we've kind of figured out in this company.
I'm smiling again because that's another one of the features. All of this set into, I was asking a lot of people just like you, how do you get your employees to take responsibility for the goals of the company? Because every person that's been on this show for the most part is an Inc. 5000 level company. Their growth, the founders have goals of growth. And most of the CEOs said, Gene, that's not the right question. I'd frame it a little bit differently. And I go, what do you mean? It's not responsibility. We want them to take ownership. And I see you nodding your head. And so I said I had to unpack what ownership was. And one of those things is transparency. Another one is let the best ideas win. Another one is they've got to be growing in their roles. So you're hitting on things without even knowing my background research. And I've done this across 800 interviews. And I don't always get a chance to have this deep level of match, but you have found a lot of the secrets of fast growth companies just by chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a reflection of ourselves, right? Like, I've been working now for almost 30 years in business, right? But I'm a voracious learner. I love to read. I love to listen to podcasts. I love to just kind of learn from as many people as possible because, you're only here once, right? Like you might as well get the most out of everything you possibly can. And, you go and you end up hiring people that are often like you, not exactly like you, but want to learn, want to take on new challenges. And that ends up just breeding a culture. You get 4 or 5 people. Like when we first founded the company and started the company, we sat around in a room, and of the 7 core values that we defined, 6 of them were written in the first 2 to 3 hours because they were common against the top people that started the company. And they haven't changed, right? Because that's just who we are and what we want to do as a company and as a group of people working on a challenge together.
I want to switch gears. We've been talking about how do you create a culture of accountability and what are the makeups of that. But I want to talk about your own leadership style. When you're leading this group of adaptable, I said accountability, it should have adaptability. Sorry. When you are leading this, what are the principles that you've used to create adaptability in your company?
Well, you can't dictate to people how to do things, right? I'm more of the leader that I try to set a vision and a high level strategy. Like I use this story all the time where I'm like, try to tell a story in that team. Imagine in, 6 months time, we're all going to be at the top of this hill together and we're all standing there and we all are jamming this giant flag into the top of the hill. And all of our hands are on this pole together and this flag together. Right now, some of you are going to be responsible for charting which way we get there, what food we bring, or what shelter we're going to have, or if you can think about a campaign to try to get to a summit, a mountain kind of a thing. We let people step forward and say, I want to take on this challenge. I want to do this. They have that ownership that you talked about. They're more inspired, and then they can come up with every time they see a roadblock. They have this kind of mentality of like, when you see a roadblock to success, you're either going to go over it, you're going to go around it, or you're going to go through it, right? And that can't be dictated by one person, like a CEO or a COO or somebody saying, do this, do this, do this. You just can never move fast enough. And when you're a small company, your biggest asset is your speed. But I watch so many other companies that don't empower their people to make decisions and to make those choices on the ground, knowing that, another thing that I often talk about is like, if you've got 10 decisions to make, 7 out of the 10 decisions, we are going to be in violent agreement on whether you should go right or you should go left in that decision. The other 3, I might say go right. You might say go left. But because you're living it and breathing it and own it and care, you're probably going to be right 2 out of those 3 times. So if I'm going to be right 1 out of 10 times, Like, I don't want to stall you from making a decision just because I might, as the CEO, I have a broader perspective on things, right? I might be right 1 out of 10 times. I don't want to harm you in your ability to make that decision because you might make a wrong decision or a different decision 1 out of 10 times. And that speed, that ownership drives a certain type of person to work at our company.
Now, I wanted to add something here about vision. When you have the right vision for your company, now, when I say right vision, I mean it's actually written down. It's actually written down more than just a sentence. It's maybe a page or 2 pages or 5 pages. Ours happens to be around 5 or 6 pages because we want to make sure it's robust, it's clear, touching on all elements of the business, and that everyone sees how their department fits into it. And so I have a specific framework. I can share it with you if you're interested. But what I really wanted to share with you today about vision is when you are the leader and you have that vision, how well have you communicated it to everyone else on the team? Is it something that they could repeat back to you? Is it something that they know what their role is or their department is inside of that vision? Are they in complete alignment with it? Do they believe in the vision? All of those things are very important. And a lot of leaders just think it's nice to have, or it's just something I have for myself. But I want to make sure that vision when you use it the right way, it's across the company. Now back to Derek. I would imagine this also increases their level of confidence over time.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're not kind of Monday morning quarterbacking. Like when you do make mistakes, it's always something where we learn from it, right? Like I can go on and on and on over all the mistakes that I made in the, almost 10 years of the company so far. And lots of people have made other mistakes, but we grow and we learn from it. And it's never, it was never out of lack of caring, lack of effort. It's like you just can't see the blind corners all the time.
I agree with so much of this, but based on the work I'm done, it's coaching, right? A lot of executives go, well, I know better. I've been doing this for years. And I'm like, well, those people in the front lines, like you talked about, they're much more connected and closer to it, and you're removed. And you could be right, but let's see what they have to say. So it goes back to the let the best ideas win. Derek, we've been having a great conversation about adaptability. Is there anything that we've left out of the conversation of adaptability that you think is pertinent?
I think the reviews of things like, we do a lot, especially on the development side. I've got great leaders on that side of our business. We do a lot where after we're releasing a product or doing like a software release or something like that might be a couple of weeks sprint, doing a reflection on what worked well, what didn't work well, and doing that in a cross-functional way so that everybody can learn from it. Like there's so much learning that can happen in every aspect of business. And when you do that in a cross-functional way, you end up getting people that like raise their hand. They're like, I never even thought that, I was a core developer, never even thought that I would want to go into test or quality or some other aspect of our business, but it's actually really interesting to me. I want to try that. Right. And we found that that's very successful too, of just exposing people, because often in companies, you get this kind of mindset, like, this is who I am. I'm a software developer, or I'm a salesperson, or a marketeer, or whatever. And they don't really get exposed to all the different roles and how much opportunity for growth and challenge and impact you can make on a company are. And so we love doing those like cross-functional reviews.
I want to reflect on something that just picking up on this, because I'm looking at data across a lot of the conversations I've had, my clients, and I will feel like your company is uniquely positioned around this adaptability. That's one reason why we're having this interview. But just looking at most of the players on teams stay in the same role. And so they don't have that cross-functional support. In the places where they've done it, it's gotten them to a place where it didn't perform well. It didn't work well. It didn't, someone's functional domain from sales doesn't translate into marketing, for example. And I'm glad that you guys have done this, because the culture of adaptability, I believe, is one of the core things. You're not familiar with my work, but I have 7 dials that I have used with clients to measure leadership effectiveness. We measure so many things in businesses, but we never measure leadership. One of those dials, and it's actually not the last one I added, but the second to last one, was adaptability. Vision, values, communication, empowerment, transparency, and then you've got your adaptability, and then EQ is the last one. So I just wanted to reflect on that, like from a sense that you're top tier in adaptability. Is that a surprise to you at all?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even really think about it, like it's just kind of thinking about kind of the root cause of why a lot of people don't change roles and don't change groups or teams like that, is that often everyone's moving really, really fast and they don't feel like they can fail or they can have setbacks in whatever it is, whatever department it is. And so they don't want to give somebody a chance to fail, right, in that first 6 months or year. But that's where all the growth, that's where all the learning is. And frankly, that's where a lot of the insights and innovation can happen. If you kind of go back in time, you can look at so many of the inventions that have happened in society are actually accidents. It's somebody that came from a totally different discipline that changed jobs or changed roles, was not classically trained in how to do something, and just brought their own approach to it. And then a new innovation spurred out of that changed the world often in many places, right? And it's like these happy accidents end up happening when you get these crossovers of roles. Like for myself, I started as an electrical engineer, and then I moved into technical sales. And then I moved into product, and then I moved into an operations role. People were like, why are you moving into an operations role? Like, you've got this like engineering background. But I was just intrigued and wanted to kind of learn about every aspect of business. And as a result, I was able to better empathize and understand, the challenges that other people in a company had, and how, like, I'm really big on trying to take something that is extremely low cost of one individual that's of high value to another. Like, you think about it in like a negotiation. What can I give that is of low cost to me but a high value to you, right? And you can see what can happen if somebody like in sales, taking a little bit extra time and care and forecasting can have dramatic positive benefits to somebody in our manufacturing or logistics team, right? But
Yeah.
they've never worked in that role before unless they're exposed to it, or maybe they did a tour of duty in it, and it can just really, really make teams hyper functioning.
I love this whole conversation on adaptability. I want to wrap us up with one little quick question. I know we could probably talk about this for days, but you also have another element to your culture, which is resilience, which we've touched on a little bit today, but I want to be much more intentional with this. Tell us about the resilience that happens in your culture.
Well, yeah, we don't have too much time to talk, but our company's been around 9.5 years, and we have been on the ropes probably 4 times to like less than a couple of weeks of cash in the bank, right? And it's a scary, scary thing to think about. And way too many leaders and founders don't talk about that state. But because of our culture of transparency, every single person in the company knew exactly where we stood, that 9 months out, we're going to run out of cash as a business if we don't hit these goals and we don't make it happen. And the surprising amount of resiliency where people just come up with new ideas, new innovations, new ways of solving problems when your back is up against the wall. And in the 4 times over the 10 years that we were in that state, we only ever had 1 employee resign, knowing that you could be weeks without, in a couple of weeks, you could be unemployed, right? To me, that it's just such a testament to our company of being so incredibly resilient, where they're like, I am not going to give up. I am just going to do whatever it takes to be successful.
I'm glad we wrapped up with this. I'm glad I had a chance to ask you this question, for you to be on the show to share your insights around creating a culture of adaptability. And now we added in the resilience as well. So thank you for being here, Derek.
Appreciate your time, Gene. Thanks for having me.
Wow, what a great interview. I love having the time to go in depth around topics like adaptability, and creating a culture of adaptability is something a lot of companies are doing. As I mentioned, I have 7 dials of effective leadership, and adaptability is one of those dials. And so you want to make sure that you get these things right. If you're curious about what those other dials are, send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. Just request the 7 dials of effective leadership or something similar, and I will be able to send it to you, and love to serve you and support you in any way I can. So if there's anything I can do for you, make sure you reach out, gene@genehammett.com. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.